what we're doing today is we're gonna make all of this and all of this into a little short block we got over here. So if you guys saw in our last video, I cleaned the block out, I installed the crankshaft, I put the bearings in, lubed the bearings, I measured oil clearances, and today what we're gonna be doing is installing all these already pre-gapped piston rings, because if you guys saw that video too, we gapped all these piston rings to every single bore. So we're going to be cleaning off all these pistons and rods off, re-oiling the bearings, and stabbing them in all 8 cylinders. Alright guys, I'm going to show you how to do one piston and rod, and then I'm just going to crank out the rest of the 7, or I'm going to do 1, so then there's 7 more to do after that. So after you get your piston rings installed, as I showed you, you can use that tool or you can walk it in by hand.
I think that's it. Yeah, we'll be back in 1 week. So Bonnie's are gonna hold down the set for us for about a week. We're taking a little vacation, small hiatus, but I'm gonna be out there in Dave Acosta saying crisscross applesauce, meditating for like 3 days. If you see me, don't say anything.
You guys saw in that little video, this is cylinder 1. So on a V8, you do the furthest piston. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we're going to start with this guy right here. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to line up the crankshaft. So we're going to spin this guy so he is a little bit farther down. Yeah, about right there is perfect. Then we're going to take our piston and rod that's nice and clean with our piston rings installed, and we are going to oil our bearing we got down here with some assembly lube. This guy right here. But before that, we're actually going to take some oil and we are going to coat the cylinder walls on all 8 of them with oil. We're going to coat the top of the piston with oil before we actually hammer it in using our piston ring installer, which is right over here. You can use those tapered style piston ring installers like I have right here. I've used that on a lot of engines, but these are a lot easier. These things are freaking breeze. You just drop piston in, bang it in, you're done. You don't have to sit there tightening it, loosening it to get it in, line it up. That's just quick and easy. So just gonna take a little oil to pre-lube this cylinder. Do all 8 of them like this. We're going to dab some assembly lube right on the bottom of our, or actually the top of our rod bearing, just like that. And spread that guy with our finger. Get nice coverage on everything. And then what we are going to do with the piston rings is we're going to 180 the top piston rings. So the piston is going in like this way, so the valve release will be on the top. So we're going to actually take the top piston ring and face the gap towards the dimples, and then the second piston ring we're going to do 180 off that one, so face that one over here. And then the oil rings we're going to do on by the wrist pins, and we're 180 off on the oil rings too. So top ring facing the top of the piston where it's going to face the actual V, bottom ring facing the bottom, and then I like to run one oil piston ring towards this wrist pin and then the other one towards this wrist pin, and then every single ring is at least 90 degrees off, but you really got to make sure those top 2 piston rings are 180 off. Those are the 2 demanding ones. So we're going to set that guy right there. Oh, then we're going to take some oil on the piston itself, making sure those rings are still 180 off. And a little bit on the sides. Oop, that was a lot. Taking a little oil from our hands, we're going to get the piston ring installed a little oily too. We're going to drop this guy right through here. And then we are going to slowly pound the piston in. Make sure the ring installer is all the way seated. If you feel any resistance at all, instantly stop. Do not keep going. Do not force the piston in. And just like that, we are installed. Just to make it easier seeing for you guys, I'm going to flip the motor actually over so you guys can see lining up the rod. Alright, so now that we got the motor upside down, you can see the rod just chilling here. So now what we need to do is pound the piston all the way down so we get it on to the actual crankshaft. Then we are going to take our rod cap, same thing, oil her up. Right now would be the time to check this with Plastigauge. I've already checked it with a dial indicator before we have even installed it, so we are way ahead of that. And then the one thing you want to know with the caps to line up is you see that tang. You're going to align that up on the actual rod end so the cap tangs go together. Then we're going to come back and we'll torque every single one of these all at the same time. Then after we get all 8 rods and pistons in, we'll go through and torque all the bearing caps to 35 foot-pounds of torque. We torque the mains already to 110. So yeah, now I just got to install a bunch of piston rings and a bunch of pistons, so I'm just going to get at that. And just like that, we have a beautiful short block with all our flat top KVs, our Eagle connecting rods, rod bearings, ARP bolts, main studs, and rod bolts. We got a pretty beefy 5.9 Magnum here that is going to make a ton of power. I measured piston protrusion, and we got about 0.02 of an inch of that piston actually hanging out from the block. So that means we're going to have to get at least a crush thickness of 42 thousandths of an inch for a head gasket or more. We're going for that 10-to-1. I'm going to have to do some calculations online with a 62cc head, 2 thousandths of piston protrusion. This is a 5cc dish piston, so that means there's 5 cc's of hole right here where the actual gaps are. So we'll have to measure that out. I'm pretty sure we'll go with, like, just to play it safe, probably keep it that, yeah. We'll probably do a 50 thousandths crush thickness head gasket, because you want about 40 thousandths of piston to cylinder head clearance. Unless you're really stand behind your measurements, because if this piston rocks at all, like too much rock in that cylinder, it can even like smack it with the bottom or the top. And we just want to play it safe, because if you guys know, on the Viper build that we did, we had too long of rods in there, so we had to put a thicker head gasket. We had to put like, I think 90 thousandths, or I can't even remember how thick. That was a very thick head gasket we had to put in Venom over here. Venom is getting a new turbo main housing that's supposed to be here Thursday, which is the actual center section of the turbo, or the turbo cartridge, or whatever you want to call it. And yes, that's supposed to be here Thursday, because if you guys saw that smoke out my whole garage and everything after we were trying to go drag racing with it. And then he will be back together, and hopefully we will be drag racing within next week or weekend or so, I don't know. But yes, the 5.9 Magnum is all put back together, and I'm super stoked for it. I'm super stoked to make a ton of power out of this little V8, but just like the big old guy over there, we're bringing Mopar's back, baby.
I'm bringing sexy back.
But yeah, guys, in the next video with the 5.9, we will be putting the camshaft in. We have to put all the oil gallery plugs in. I do not have the front frost plug oil plugs yet. So, or any of the frost plugs. I will have to order that. Head gasket, a full gasket kit for the motor, and I think we're going to have to get longer push rods. I don't know, we'll have to measure that as well when we put it in, because I think I'm going to use some Viper rocker arms, because those fit good, and those are a 1:7 ratio instead of a 1:6 ratio, these guys. So that's going to give us even more lift out of this camshaft. So we might even have to check some valve to piston clearance, but we should be good with these big indents in the piston, or big valve reliefs in the pistons. We should be good. But yes, the motor is a short block again. If you want to come buy it, $3 grand right now, come get it. Just kidding. Alright guys, but we're gonna call that a video. So thank you for watching. As always, keep it boosted, and we'll see you guys next time. Oh yeah, and then we torqued all the rod cap bolts in a sequence from 15 foot-pounds all the way up to 40 foot-pounds. These are Eagle connecting rods. I don't know the part number, but it is their I-beam connecting rods. So you just want to do 15, 15, and then do 40. You don't want to jump straight to 40, because you can actually rock the cap, and you don't want that right now, because I think it looks awesome just the way it is right now. It looks kind of like a guy with boxing gloves on. That's the only way I can describe it. It literally looks like a dude with boxing gloves on.